Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode of the Dale Jr. Download. Quick update on Austin Cindric. NASCAR has came out with their penalty for something he did in the race. We watched on Sunday as he and Ty Dillon exited turn 4. Ty Dillon kind of shoved him off the racetrack. It's early in the race. Austin was upset. Austin intentionally come back across the track and right hooked Ty Dillon into the wall. Ty Dillon suffered a little damage, but there was no caution. And we all debated on Tuesday, as a lot of people did, about what might happen and what NASCAR might do. But Mike Ford from NASCAR, he's NASCAR's managing director of racing communications, mentioned on today's Hauler Talk, that's a podcast that NASCAR's got going on, where they kind of discuss some of the things and decisions made throughout each race weekend. Well, he mentioned that the reasoning behind Cindric's penalty, which was to not suspend Cindric and just give him a 50 driver point deduction and also a fine of $50,000, was because the race was being held on a road course with lower speeds and tighter confines, and that the incident didn't lead to a caution. The previous two incidents that had suspensions were on 1.5-mile speedways. So, yeah, it sounds like Denny is right that they are, the reason that they chose this route with Cindric was because they didn't feel like this was as severe as what, right hooking somebody at 150 or 140 miles an hour.
As a driver, how do you, does it matter to you? Let's take the penalty out of it for a second. Just if you're being right hooked, are you pissed off the same if it's super speedway or road course?
Well, no, you're not. If you get right hooked going fast and you nose hard into the outside wall at Sharpmoor Speedway in a dogleg, your car is destroyed, your day is over, and you're more than likely going to have a little soreness in your neck from the whiplash and the impact. If you get right hooked, and now Ty Dillon did hit the wall. It did damage his car. He suffered damage, and it ruined his day. But if you get right hooked and come out of there, relatively unscathed, you kind of count your blessings and feel lucky. If anything, you might even go, hey, I deserve that, and I hope we're even, right? Let's call a truce. But I'm sure Ty Dillon was upset. Anyone would be getting turned into the wall. He did run Cindric wide on the corner. Cindric probably wishes he had handled it differently. Cindric is probably very thankful that he did not get suspended, even though that 50 driver points that he's lost is going to bite.
So we have Kyle Busch has spoke on this on Sirius today. I think intent is intent. I do not agree with the call there. I don't care where it is. Daytona, Martinsville, Watkins Glen. It's not the first time either. He got off with that one.
I do remember Austin Cindric having an issue or some type of an incident where it was at St. Louis with Austin Dillon, and I believe that there was speculation and debate after that race about Austin's maneuver or a maneuver that wrecked the three cars. So maybe in the past several hours, Kyle Busch, who drives for RCR, has been in conversations that are happening in that group, considering this did involve Ty Dillon, who's indirectly, connected through blood with RCR. I'm sure that conversation around what happened at St. Louis has come up. And so maybe that's what Kyle's referring to when he says it's happened before.
Should that matter? If you had an incident a few years back, should that go into how NASCAR judges this?
Well, the thing about that one is I don't know that they ever could nail down whether Austin Cindric had purposely done anything at St. Louis. It wasn't quite maybe as obvious. I can't really remember or see it in my mind exactly what happened at St. Louis, but I believe there being a lot of speculation and no hard evidence to really convict or admit guilt or assign guilt. Listen. If you have a history of doing these things, NASCAR is going to that's going to play in. It certainly it's common sense that would affect or play into a decision that NASCAR might make. We talked on the Dirty Air show Tuesday, and I go back and forth with this one. I understand what some of the drivers are saying as far as Kyle Busch and Denny are like, hey, man, right hook's a right hook. I don't care if you're going 10 mile an hour or 200 miles an hour. Right hook is a right hook, and it shall all be treated the same. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can agree with that.
I think NASCAR, had they not had the new waiver rule, probably would have suspended him. But I think they realized, oh, crap, we got this rule. If we suspend him, he loses all his playoff points. We didn't expect this to come into play 3 weeks into the season. Let's give him something light and move on.
No, I hate to assume that. I don't think that that's true. I know what you're saying, Travis, but I don't believe NASCAR would go, hey, man, we don't want to. We've got a rule that, to suspend on the right hook, and we're not going to do it because we don't want the guy to feel the brunt of the penalty. What's the point of the penalty?
Well, then why not give him the penalty?
They feel like, in their words, that it wasn't that severe.
So because other cars didn't run into them?
Yeah. So because they were going slower, because there wasn't a big crash, it didn't cause a yellow. That's the way NASCAR views these things. I don't agree with it because I don't always. I've always felt like the way the drivers feel, in terms of like, hey, man, it happened. That's what it is. It's black and white. But NASCAR doesn't look at these things black and white. NASCAR doesn't look at it cut and dried, simple, and yes or no. They don't, and they haven't in the past. They will even, and I'm not talking about NASCAR here, but they'll, a yellow flag, something that warrants a yellow flag, might draw one with 10 laps to go, and that same incident might not bring out a yellow at all 10 laps into the race.
And that's why I don't like this excuse that there wasn't thrown a yellow. Well,
No. My point is like they ebb and flow on what they want to do and how they're going to do things based on the dynamic situation. It isn't, well, that car hit the wall at 30 Gs, and anything over 30 Gs is an automatic yellow flag. I don't care what time of the race it is. If they can care, if it might be late in the race and a yellow flag will certainly make things a little more interesting, then the yellow flag's coming out. If it's, if it's early in the race and it looks like the guy can get himself back to pit road and you don't see any debris, they don't throw the yellow. There's going to be people that want them to say this was a right hook. It was a right hook. It was. He right hooked him. He intentionally wrecked the hell out of him. They're going to want NASCAR to suspend, and they're going to say, well, if that was Denny, he would be suspended. And so I get that, but that's not the way NASCAR has operated in the past.
Does the Noah incident give them a little out that they've had something like this where on a road course where there wasn't the suspension, so they can go to that direction?
That's not the way I would do it, but it's the way they have done it in the past, and they do look at speeds, severity of the crash, so their interpretation of the level of danger. They do let those factors play a role in each and every case. So the right hook suspension sounds like it will be a case-by-case basis.
If you're a driver, so road courses, have at it, boys?
No. If you're going slow, hope you're going slow enough. If you're on a fast part of the racetrack,
so right hook him at the back of the track. Don't do it if you're up at the front.
No. If you're at a very fast part of the racetrack and you right hook somebody and it tears their car all to hell, you better be ready to get suspended. If you do it at another part of the racetrack where things are slower, it's less dynamic, you may get cut a break. You might get cut a break because that seems to be the way NASCAR is willing to view this.
So I remember last year at Richmond when we had the Austin Dillon incident, the number one thing is do the drivers know where the line is at? And so if you're a driver going forward with this, do you know where the line is at?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Listen, drivers are going to complain about this.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah. But they know right hooking somebody at 180 mile an hour is always bad. And what they would like NASCAR to do is just say, hey, no right hooks, period. But NASCAR's not doing it. NASCAR's going to say, hey, we're going to let y'all race. You're going to let you guys make bad decisions. We're going to let Austin Cindric make a bad decision. We're going to penalize him. He got 50 damn points. That's a freaking race and a half. I mean, if he dominated a race, he gets 50 points.
Yeah, but compared to what he could have had, this is a slap on the wrist.
Not really. 50 points is a race worth of points.
Dale, he could have lost every playoff point that he gets. He would have started the playoffs with 2,000.
How many do you think he's going to get running the way he's running?
Still.
How many playoff points it's debatable what's at stake. I will say this. I mean, he gets to race. He gets to keep racing. He loses a giant bucket of points. With the way he's running, it's more than one race worth of points that he's losing.
And yeah, so I guess actually now that you say that, he could have been losing what? Let's call it 8 points, 10, where now he's losing 50 regular season. So yeah, I guess I see your side.
This could weigh worse because, I mean, he misses a race. What if he gets suspended a race? Look, I know the playoff points you're talking about, but we are just speculating on really how many playoff points he may get if he makes the playoffs. What if he was to go out in that? What if hypothetically he goes? Let's think about this. Is this even real? Maybe I'm wrong here, but say NASCAR did suspend him, right? What if he ran like in that race anyways, and just it cost him 18, 20 points, and he's back on the track? Does that make sense?
Now that I didn't think about it that way, that this in a way,
points wise, it's worse.
Like if this was a Kyle Larson, you'd say, yeah, this is a big, but for Austin Cindric, this actually 50. Now I didn't think about it this way. I hate to say this, but
I know. So if it was,
Dale, you're right.
If it's a guy who's getting 50 points or near, 40, 45 points, 50 points a race, and he's going to a great racetrack and he's getting suspended, you might have your argument where he's kind of getting a deal. But this is a guy, 50 points is almost 2 damn races. For the way he's been running. All the point conversation around his playoff points, suspension, losing playoff points, all that stuff, it's hypothetical for a guy like him. If it was a Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, if it was a Larson where man, these guys could have anywhere from 25 to 40 playoff points, that's huge. Cindric, listen, struggling a bit, not running all that great. How many playoff points are really even talking about him losing if he were to be suspended? I think losing the 50 points total is harsher on him because of how they're struggling than it is a top 5 or top 10 team. This is more than a race worth of points that basically kind of might be putting him in a must-win situation to try to get into the playoffs.
And he would probably he wouldn't. Even if he made the playoffs with his points, he's probably still at a must-win. And so, now that I think about it, I'm okay. At first, I was like, I didn't like this penalty because I thought they let him off easy. But now thinking about his position and where he's at, I'm actually okay with NASCAR on this ruling.
Yeah, it's still a harsh penalty. And
does the driver pay the fine?
The fine, that's a great that's a great question. I'll look at that money and not. I don't feel like that bothers him or any driver. Maybe a guy like a Carl Long or one of those teams that are down at the bottom, they cannot afford a $50,000 hit. No way, no how. None of the drivers, the guys that are in those open cars that are showing up to 2 or 3 races a year, cannot afford a $50,000 hit. They're not insulated for that. Whereas some of the bigger teams can handle those type of deals, and I'm not sure that the driver pays it or whatever. And even if he did, he's probably not going to miss it.
I think Team Penske is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the money.
I don't want to speak for their pocketbook, but
the money, honestly, is so insignificant. It doesn't even need to be listed in this whole report because it's so insignificant to Mr. Cindric and Penske and their organization. They would argue again. They would argue with me on that. But that's just how I personally feel. But the points is pretty tough. So that point penalty makes him puts him in a must-win situation. He's probably thankful he's not suspended. But as the season plays out, he may initially underestimate the severity of that point situation, right? And as the season plays out, he might go, that 50 points would be nice right now, when it gets down toward the end of the regular season.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, hey, appreciate everybody tuning in. Pretty interesting, compelling information coming out of NASCAR with this penalty. Moving on to Phoenix.